When it comes to individuals obtaining value from psychedelic experiences, there's typically thought to be a clear distinction among the therapeutic value of psychedelics and the philosophical value of psychedelics. If you're familiar with my channel, or just informed in general about psychedelic substances in society, then you know that through many personal stories along with numerous clinical studies, that they show great promise in helping combat various mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, addiction, OCD, PTSD, and more. If you've had a few experiences yourself, or have heard people such as Terence McKenna, Joe Rogan, or many others talk about psychedelics, then you know there's also a very prominent philosophical aspect to the substances as well. I've heard so many people claim, and so many people even comment on my own videos, that the philosophical value of psychedelics isn't real. They say stuff like, yeah, psychedelics are great, they definitely show a lot of promise in mental health treatment, but I just don't think they have any philosophical value. I think it's foolish to assume that one can have some objectively truthful insight because it's just a drug, it's just a hallucination, it's not real, right? Now I'm here to tell you that that way of thinking is wrong, because the therapeutic value of psychedelics and the philosophical value are deeply, deeply intertwined. It is literally the insights that psychedelics provide is what gives the therapeutic benefit. It's not just the substance itself that helps someone, it's what the drug does to the person. And what the drug does is that it alters consciousness so that reality is being perceived in a much, much different way than normal. And who are we to say that our ordinary, everyday, waking consciousness is somehow the objectively correct way to perceive reality and that anything else is just hallucination, not real at all? We as humans can only perceive a fraction of the electromagnetic scale. Language twists and contorts the way we conceptualize things, and the truth is, we only perceive things the way we do is because we have evolved to perceive it that way. An animal sees reality drastically different than we do. Many animals can't even see color. Some animals can see way more colors than we can, and some animals can't even see at all. You see, an organism only perceives reality the way it does because it has precisely evolved that way. The human way of perceiving reality is just a filter, and what psychedelics does is that it changes that filter, allowing for access to modes of consciousness that are otherwise unable to be accessed. Now, I am not going to sit here and say your own biology can't turn against you while on a psychedelic trip and cause you to have utterly false hallucinations and delusions. That totally can happen. But in hindsight, it isn't hard to make a distinguishment between delusion and genuine insight. A delusion might be thinking someone is trying to break into your house while you're on acid, or thinking you see your cat start flying or something. But the genuine insights that come from psychedelics are typically directly in line with the dissolving of the ego that happens to all people who take psychedelics. Mental disorders that psychedelics are so well known for helping, depression, anxiety, addiction, OCD, they're all disorders that stem from the ego having too much of a grip on your life. Your ego is simply just your identity, anything you consider to be a part of, an aspect of, or a quality of yourself. When someone is depressed, they're struggling to find meaning in life. They don't feel worthy, and it's precisely the ego that seeks to find this meaning in life. When someone is anxious, they're either consciously or unconsciously worried about a threat to their ego. And when someone is addicted to something, such as alcohol, they lose connection with just about everything except that thing that they're addicted to. When it's a serious problem, not even their spouse, their kids, or their job will be enough for them to stop. Addiction is just a radical form of selfishness. It is an ingrained pattern of thinking with the pleasure of the self at the center of it. So are you seeing how all these disorders that psychedelics help so much to cure all have something to do with the ego in some form? When people take part in psychedelic-assisted therapy, they're entering states of consciousness in which the ego's grip on the mind loosens. They'll think things like, why was I so damn addicted to the alcohol? Why couldn't I just put down the bottle? Life is so great. There's so many things I could do. There's no point in just drinking my life away. From here on out, I vow to be better. And for so many people, having that experience actually works. It's literally as simple as putting things into a different context, and psychedelics provide that different context. One smoker who underwent psilocybin-assisted therapy said, and I quote, "The universe was so great, and there were so many things you could do and see in it, that killing yourself seemed like a dumb idea. It put smoking in a whole new context. Smoking seemed very unimportant. It seemed kind of stupid, to be honest. The therapeutic value of psychedelics is just fucking awesome. And when the ego dissolves to the point that it is pretty much completely gone, there is no longer a distinguishment between self and other, subject and object. Everything becomes a self, everything becomes one, leading many users to experience a sort of cosmic consciousness, which basically is an intense feeling of unity or oneness with everything that exists. And this notion of oneness is a key underlying concept among pretty much all religions in the world. And it's so noteworthy that oneness, the oneness that is described in many religions, can literally be experienced firsthand. The experience I've had and many others have had of oneness have moved me so incredibly much that I am led to believe that it really is true that who we are, what our egos are just broken off, finite fractals of consciousness that are a part of a single, unified, infinite field of consciousness. That is basically just a different way of saying that we are part of a greater whole. Our egos don't mean jack shit in the grand scheme of things, and we should do our best to help each other out, spread love and positivity, and help humanity develop in a conscious way. You can't just say that's hallucination or that's delusion, and you can't just say there's no philosophical value in that. And when you have your ego fade away from you, yet your consciousness remains intact, and you're taken in by the greater whole, you realize how damn insignificant your own fucking problems are. That shit you're depressed about, that cigarette you're addicted to, that becomes so pointless. Yourself in relation to the entire universe is utterly put into perspective in these cosmic consciousness experiences. Accept it. You found yourself on Earth, in a human body, in an imperfect world. What are you going to do about it? There's so much to do that the possibilities are endless. There are so many opportunities to spread love. There's so much progress to be made. Yet you're over here wasting your life away with alcohol. What a shame. And this is precisely how the therapeutic value and the philosophical value of psychedelics are deeply, deeply intertwined. And it needs to be accepted that psychedelics are valuable philosophical tools in addition to valuable therapeutic tools, because it is the philosophy that gives the therapy. And this whole notion of oneness and having consciousness remain after all subjective self-identity is gone is leading many to speculate that consciousness is not a physical thing. It is not something that has simply somehow manifested itself through evolution and is located somewhere in the brain, but rather it is something that is inherent throughout all living beings and perhaps even non-living things as well. Now, the way consciousness perceives reality, which is through the ego mind, which would be the filter for consciousness, is something that has manifested through evolution. And this filter will continue to change over time in order to suit our survival, but the filter is not consciousness itself. Consciousness takes the form of its container, but if there is no container, then it is formless. And this whole notion about consciousness and reality is very, very philosophical. Philosophy is literally just the study of knowledge, existence, reality, etc. And anyone who says psychedelics are still just complete and utter delusion, I'm sorry, but the depth of your ignorance is just so incredibly deep, I just can't even fathom it. But anyways, guys, I do not want to paint psychedelics as this thing to just go and try for yourself with no knowledge and no preparation beforehand. That is a recipe for a disaster and could leave you worse off than when you started. Educate yourself. I got a lot of videos on that. Other creators have great content as well. Allow your brain to be a sponge for harm reduction and preparatory practices regarding psychedelics. And that is all I got for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I got a Patreon where I run a book club on there about psychedelics and spirituality. I do spend a lot of time on these videos but don't make much in return, so support on there really helps a lot. Really it does, and I can't express how grateful I am for the people that support me on there. I fucking love you guys. And that's all for today. Have a great day and peace.